Squatchin Holler. Please like and subscribe.
And hit that bell.
Boom.
Here we are.
Man, we made it. All right. We've been scrambling. How's it sound, y'all?
Sounds good on my end.
All right. The Ghost Roger left, looks like, so we should be good.
Yeah. How do we sound to you guys in the audience? Everything sound good? We were having some technical difficulties, so.
Hey, everybody.
Maybe.
Yeah, we got a lot of people, 20 people already in here.
Woohoo, let's go.
Y'all, this is one we've been kicking around for a while, or this type of show. And woodwalkers, they have their night owls, and we like, thank you, Gary. We like talking about this other stuff too. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of connections, and then some of them are just out of nowhere and odd, which makes for a good story. But I think Ashley came up with the idea, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, I think that was her big idea. But because like we've talked about, we all have an interest in some of these subject matters, and we're all learning this as we go along. So, besides Bigfoot, obviously, and Dogman, as we've recently dug into, there's a lot of other stuff out there. And like you just said, the more you start digging into it, the more you start realizing how everything is all connected. So this is our first step into digging into that. So for those of you who don't remember, we all talked about Roger, Ashley, and myself here behind the scenes about just, hey, let's just pick a cryptid. Pick something that you're interested in and dig into it, and then that's what we're going to present. So, ta-da! That's what we're doing tonight.
Yeah, and shoot questions, or if you have information on the subject and want to
yes, please
chime in. This is like I said, we're on the back porch talking, sipping tea, mm-hmm. and depending on what winter or spring we're in, we're sniffling. So we're just going to have a little fun here. And I picked for my first one an easy one. I'm not going to lie, but I thought, well, I've seen some of these things with other people, and Ashley and Amanda haven't heard some of my stories. So I thought, well, that'd be good. We can do that. I'm gonna do mine last, and we drew straws. No, actually, Amanda.
Roger, you can't have that. That was my strategy. I wanted.
But so we're just here, just relaxing, having fun, y'all. So, is there anything else? Ain't nothing going on right now, is it? We got a show coming up Thursday, but we'll talk about that later. So, Amanda,
yes,
you volunteered to go first.
I did, and just so you know, I can't see you at the moment. I am trying to fix my screen, but y'all, I can hear you, everybody. So if I am making a weird face, that is why. Okay, there I am. Cool. I had to find my notes. I'm like, wait, where are my notes? Hang on.
Guys, did we actually explain what we're trying to do tonight, what the theme is of tonight's episode, beyond just we wanted to talk about different cryptids?
No, go ahead.
Yeah, no, dig in, Ashley. Let's go.
Yep.
Let's go. So we were all kind of talking behind the scenes about, different ways of bringing new things to the show, I suppose. And for all those people who don't know, my name is Ashley, and I did one episode however many weeks ago, but kind of been behind the scenes here with Roger and Amanda, and we were just kind of brainstorming some ideas, and you said it was my idea, but I really think it was Roger had kind of made the prompt and we were just kind of brainstorming, and it was like regionally talking about different cryptids. And because all three of us are from completely different regions, it was like, yeah, we can do that. So we kind of flipped through our catalog of cryptids that not only I think personally interest all of us individually, but also allows us to dive in a little bit more local. And so yeah, we all picked. So again, for old and new people, I'm from the PNW, Pacific Northwest, specifically Washington State. Amanda there in Georgia, and Roger in Tennessee. So we all went through and decided to pick different things that are still similar to our own personal interests, but that we think you guys might like too.
And y'all, what's fun about having a group effort is like these two bring up cryptids and things. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I've never heard of that. And then
we've been blowing your brains in our group chat.
And it's fun because you know, as people came over from other countries and settled in certain areas, like, you know, North Carolina, some of my family did, and there are all these stories that kind of come along, but some of them like mysteriously appear out of nowhere. So it's fun to kind of look at that, and I think as humans like mysterious stories, and there may be some backstory. You know, the movie that we talked about earlier, like keeping everybody in line and the kids scared, not wanting to run off in the woods or whatever.
As old as human storytelling. That's what storytelling is warnings.
Exactly, yeah.
Don't let the boogers get you. That's what I always heard. I didn't know what a booger was, but I was scared of it.
Amanda didn't listen. Or no, she didn't know.
I know, right?
No, I found out the hard way.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Look, that's something else. Ashes is a gamer. He's in Arkansas, and he's got a little show too. He's got a show, and he plays games online. He has a lot of people. And
hi, Ashes. I'm a fan of your name.
And Discord, I don't even know what that is. I mean, people are like, "Hey, come over to the Discord," and I'm like, I don't know what that is.
I'll admit I'm still figuring it out. So once we get there, we'll be sure to let you know.
Yes, I'm sure Ashley knows
a little bit, but.
But thank you, Ashes, for the gifts. And y'all, the way that works, they're 99 cents for a membership. And when somebody gifts memberships, it's random. So it's like a lottery. And if you got one, thank Ashes for that. We appreciate it. So, Amanda, what did you pick for tonight? Because I honestly
I picked for my cryptid topic for tonight is one I've actually had a genuine interest in for a while. Being here in Appalachia, obviously, you know, we talk about boogers, and I'm the Bigfoot lady on here apparently, but I've always heard tales of something called a Wampus cat. And I just like the name. I like how it rolls off the tongue, or at least with my southern dialect here, Wampus cat. So I remember seeing a picture a long time ago, and I'm going to pull it up here for everybody. Let me fix it here so we can all see what I'm talking about. So I remember seeing this picture in a cryptid book a long time ago from somewhere. And I just thought it was the craziest looking thing. You know, you got lizard tail, you got snake head, cat head, and chicken looking feet and everything. And I thought that this was the Wampus cat. However, in doing my research for this episode, I have come to discover that this particular image is a completely different cryptid. This is actually called the tassel worm or something. I can't pronounce it. I am still working on it. So I bring up this picture first because I want you to know that this is where my interest in it started from. So now let me pull up.
Right off the bat, I'm learning too, because I thought that was the Wampus cat. That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. No, apparently this is the Wampus cat, which is even more terrifying.
Yeah, I don't know how, but it is.
Yes.
Wow, Leonard, thank you.
Oh, man.
I like this interpretation. It's very Chester.
So, yeah, it's very, very Chester cat, which is what I was reading a lot about it. And I liked this particular image, and I wish that I could find who the artist was, because I just found it on a Google search, so I could credit the artist. But in all of the descriptions, or most descriptions of the Wampus cat, it is very, very reminiscent of a cougar or a panther, which, as much as our DNR will say that we don't have them here in Appalachia, we totally do, because I've seen them. And yes, the other Roger in there, they are a Cherokee legend. So let me start with the history of them through the Cherokee legend. So I'll leave this picture up here. So what I discovered through my research is that they were a Cherokee legend. And there's two different versions that I found, and I haven't found too much citation on either of them yet. So I'm a source person. That's just how my brain rolls. So anyhow, what I discovered was that in this legend, a husband and wife, Cherokee natives. And if there's anybody in the chat who ends up watching this who is native and I say anything, I sincerely apologize. I'm very obviously not. So please don't take it in the wrong way. I am still learning. So anyway, so a husband and wife, the husband went off with the hunting party to go hunt, and it was considered against practice for the women of the tribe to go out and go hunting with them, or to participate in their sacred ceremonies. So this wife was continually curious, and so she decided that she was going to tag along, and she took and covered herself with a cougar's or a mountain cat's pelt, and hid herself as a mountain cat in the woods behind them. But during the ceremony, the shaman, of course, recognized it in her instantly and cursed her to walk around with this pelt to be the Wampus cat, because of her transgression there. So there are many depictions that I found of the Wampus cat. My personal favorite is this one right here with 6 legs, which I think is fun. But most of them are of just a regular giant black cat, or what we up here in the mountains, we have plenty of legends of big black cats and black panthers that aren't supposed to be around either. So that is also another possibility for a Wampus cat. So I've discovered through this research here that Wampus is kind of I can't say it's a big word, colloquial term for thank you, that big word. For just kind of like booger is, it's kind of a collective term for anything that kind of goes bump in the night. A Wampus is kind of very much the same thing. So the term Wampus, and so I need to pull up my notes here real quick, so just bear with me. So the word Wampus is also very, very Appalachian. So reading verbatim my notes here, it says the heavy Scotch-Irish population in Appalachia may be contributed to the word Wampus through dialect terms like Wampish or Wample. Those terms meaning to waddle or to be askew. Thus, the word cattywampus comes from the same term. So, Wampus cat is just a weird cat, a cat that is cattywampus. So, go ahead, Roger.
Well, no, and I've heard some of those terms before. Didn't know what they meant.
I have too, actually, thinking about it.
And we have one of the best storytellers I've ever been around in the chat, y'all. Miss Naoma Finn, and we'll have to get her on sometime to talk about some of these cryptids.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. I love a good storyteller. And
called I didn't know that the Ozark Howler of West Mississippi is possibly.
Yes, and that was another thing too. Is yes, there is. I'm gonna get back to where I can actually see y'all, so I'm not doing this. So yeah, there are actually in some of the research, they believe that the Ozark Howler and the Wampus cat are more or less one and the same, which is interesting because I've always heard from Bigfoot stuff that the Ozark Howler is possibly a Bigfoot. So that's another subject I'm going to have to start digging into when I start getting into some of this more regional stuff, is the Ozark Howler. So,
and I think something, we talked about and you brought up that is intriguing is the area that these things are in, and like we said before, where the people originally came from mostly.
Yes.
And use some of the same wording or a variation of that word. So
at first, Roger, I heard you and I thought something snuck aboard on a ship and got here. That's how I thought you were going with it.
Hey, you never know, right?
Well, can I say,
never know.
And Amanda, you'll probably know a little bit about this, but there are parts, and I apologize because I'm sure I'm going to get it wrong. So I'm just colloquially saying England.
Yes.
But the Moorcats are a thing. There are reports of big, large black felines, panther size, and they're very loosely related to like the hellhounds as well.
Yes.
So this is right on brand.
And it is. It's very, very funny that you mentioned hellhounds as well, because in some of my research that I was researching, let me pull up a different picture for the audience. These are some of the books I was borrowing from David Becerra at the museum from the library I was reading while at work. One of the fun perks of my job. And
he seriously has one of the best libraries.
It is a great library. So that middle book there, the one, the Inhumanoids, had some interesting stuff about werecats. And in listening to a podcast that I was listening to researching the subject, there was actually a lot of tales and myths, whether there's truth to them or not, but there's always truth to most legends. That the Wampus cat may be very similar to, like, whoa, we are all funky there.
I know, that was like,
oh, hello. So yes, so the Wampus cat may be very similar to how a lot of people attribute the Dogman to being a protector of sacred grounds. There was a Reddit story that I was reading, and take Reddit for what it is, but they were resharing a story of a supposed park ranger who had an encounter with one while they were on some, what they found out later was very sacred land, and once it spoke to them, said, "You're not supposed to be here." It was this terrifying story. I wish I could remember all of it. But going back to this picture here, let me fix our faces again. There we go. So I want to read to the audience some excerpts from this particular book in their talks about the Wampus cat. It actually is more of a werecat than anything. So let me pull it up here, because I'm super special and I just have it in here. So let me pull back up our image of the Wampus cat. So
I'm sorry, Naomi was bringing up a were shark in Hawaii. What you said?
Hey, there is actually, once you really start digging into it, especially that book, the one this other one I pulled up here, this Inhumanoids one, which is by a fantastic researcher, Barton Nunley. He talks about all kinds of were type animals, and the same thing in this book. I've just got a chance to glance at it here at the very end of the day. This Shapeshifters by Nick Redfern. So the excerpt from this book is him reciting a case, and it says, "A second case reached me in 2013 from a Jennifer who lives in Oregon. So actually, rather interesting thing is that Wampus cats are seen all over the United States, not just here in the Appalachia. So
Did not know
continuing on.
that.
The U
Jennifer.
of Appalachia.
Pardon?
The U of Appalachia. I like that. No, I'm
Yes.
kidding.
Yeah, that's me stuttering on myself here.
No, you're good. I thought it was funny that I looked at the map and our county is like not Appalachia, but the counties on the east side of us all are. I'm like, how do we get left out?
Oh, right.
Weird stuff happened here. Man,
All
that's
right.
and Barton, actually, I got a book, that same book from Barton, and I haven't read it yet. I'm horrible about reading books. I have to be in the mood, I guess.
And I'm going to go ahead and reply to this comment right here. It says, Amanda must be Cajun because she speaks with her hands. No, darling, I am as Scotch-Irish as they come. And German, so we do like this with everything.
And that's my family too, Scotch-Irish and German. So we may be kin to each other.
Yeah, if I can't talk, if I don't have my hands, I'm through. So if anybody went back and watched my recording of my presentation from the conference that I was at, they wanted to give me the mic, and I was like, yeah, I could use it, but then I realized I couldn't talk with my hands, so that's why I didn't use the mic for my presentation. So anyhow, let me get back to reading the story here. So Jennifer's encounter occurred in her small hometown, the name of which she prefers to keep out of the story, in the fall of 2011. It was late on a Friday night, and Jennifer had been hanging out with an old friend whom she had not seen for a few months. Laughs and a few drinks were in order of the night. The laughs were, however, destined to come to a sudden, shuddering end. It was not long after midnight that Jennifer left her friend's apartment, and although the two had not seen each other for several months, they only lived approximately a 10-minute walk from each other. The lack of contact having been due to the fact that her friend had been on temporary work far away. So given the close proximity to Jennifer's apartment, she decided to take a walk home. The quiet town hardly being a hotbed for any kind of crime or mugging to be worried about. Only a couple of minutes before she reached her own apartment, Jennifer saw what she assumed was a large black dog walking toward her on the sidewalk, an assumption identical to the experience of the previous one, which I also read. As the creature got closer, Jennifer was horrified to see that it was actually a gigantic black cat, as in the size of a jaguar. Jennifer was about to make a run for cover, but to where at that time of the night, she admitted she had no idea. When the cat suddenly stood upright, changed in appearance, ran across the road at a phenomenal speed, and vanished into an alley on the other side of the road. Notably, Jennifer said that the cat did not lose its black color as it changed into human form, nor did it lose its cat-like head. It was, according to Jennifer, something that appeared half human and half cat, a definitive werecat. I just thought that was super interesting. And unfortunately, I don't have the picture here with it. So we'll just come back to this creepy one here. There are many depictions of the Wampus cat where it is standing on its back forelegs as it normally should, but the front two legs are up in front of it, which then would in turn make it look kind of similar to like this. So
I could see that.
I don't know about you, but that would be absolutely terrifying.
Well, just imagine, I mean, all jokes aside, imagine just being on Amanda, you and I have been on hikes. You learn to be vigilant. You learn to, like, we were always taught hiking, like, look up in the trees too, mainly for big cats. And so a big cat would be scary no matter what, let alone one coming at you with 6 appendages. That would be
no joke, right? That would be then many of the legends that I read about it, the folklore that goes along with it is they talked about that it would run on the back 4, and then the other 2 were used to claw and slash and maim its prey, which happened to be the unfortunate person who ran into it. Danny, Amanda, what part of the country has it mostly been seen? Most of the legends of it, from what I've learned in the last couple of days, it's mostly just here in Appalachia. but it's actually got some pretty interesting folklore that goes along with it from the lumberjacks in Idaho and Oregon. So as everybody moved west, the legends of it moved with them. So I thought that was absolutely fascinating.
And going, being somebody that's seen weird stuff and normal stuff too, more normal stuff. When you see a big cat like that, my son and I saw 2 male mountain lions run across in front of us at the edge of Lewisburg one night. Well, when we saw it, it was strange enough that there were mountain lions and they were very large, but you could see the ears and the shape of the head, and it was definitely feline. And so these people that know what a cat looks like, when they say that it has 6 legs, that's a very
it's a distinctive description. It would be very hard to missee that.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. And unfortunately, I wish that I had gotten that picture. Let me see if I can just do some
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Work in here. There it is.
When I uploaded the pictures, I thought you used AI and you messed up and did 6 legs because I didn't know.
I might have this particular image.
Yeah, that's the one I thought.
Yeah, and it does look kind of AI, but it does actually have credit to the
artist
and what I've been able to find. But yeah, here you can kind of see the how it looks kind of like exactly like a oh, come on, Amanda, use your words. Centaur.
Oh,
a horse with the human part, except it's a cat with like half human parts to it.
Y'all, Wendell's making fun of me, but I'm gonna go and give him some credit. He had a lady on a few weeks ago on his show that I had seen. I had seen on Bobby Dizzle's show before, and she gives a description of a female Wampus cat that's amazing.
Oh, and,
fun! So if y'all want to go back and watch those 2 episodes, Wendell, if you'll put her name in there, they can search her name on YouTube or whatever, and they can find.
Yeah, if you want to drop that in the chat, Wendell, that would be great, because I am now on a great rabbit hole right now with this Wampus cat thing, and I've got like 4 or 5 documents that I've saved today of different links that I've found and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, that was just kind of a brief listen about what I've learned about it so far, and it's really fascinating. And where did that comment go? There it is. What about West Virginia, my home state? Yes, yeah, definitely up in West Virginia. And you guys up in West Virginia have got everything.
Yeah, and it's her name.
You even got a song, like one of the best songs, right?
Right. Take Me Home.
Country
that was Sonia Lynn. Okay, all right. Mynat, Mynatt, and that's Eastern Tennessee too, where she lives. So.
Okay, our neck of the woods.
Yeah, and I heard that the first time, and then he had her on, and I wanted to hear it again, and she told it just exactly like she did the first time. So,
I'm seeing a lot of. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of comments coming through. I'm just finally getting to catch up with them because I can see them now, of people talking about seeing Black Panthers and things like that. So that's actually one of the things that got me interested in, hey, let me dig into the Wampus cat, because I wanted to see if there was correlation between it and the Black Panthers and cougars and stuff like that people see. And actually there is. So that's why this particular image, I kept it and saved it up, because this image is actually from 1921 from a magazine article out of Louisiana called The Wampus Cat. And
why does that actually make a lot of sense?
It kind of does, yeah. So yeah, the Wampus Cat was already part of folklore and lexicon, in the turn of the century back then.
So what I'm wondering is, like, our ancestors, when they came over and they found areas that looked like home, they would settle. Like Helen, Georgia, like close to y'all up there. The story I read, it reminded the settlers of home, so they settled down and built their little villages or whatever. So I'm wondering, we have like the Appalachian chain, if I'm saying that right, and then you have certain areas across the ocean that are made up of the same, because at one time everything was, all together. And I'm wondering if it's if it's
a remnant from over there that drifted over here.
Possibly.
Yeah, and something interesting that I came across in researching this as well is the ley lines that run here through the entire Earth, and where many of these cryptid sightings, as well as Wampus cat sightings, and reports that have come in are on some of those ley line crosses, which is also where a lot of Bigfoot activity is and a lot of dogman activity is. So, and yeah, definitely interesting. Again, go digging more into the frequencies and that kind of stuff, Roger. So yeah, it's an interesting rabbit hole that I found, and I'm loving it.
I feel like everything's connected.
Sorry, Roger.
No, I feel like everything's connected. So I'm like hearing this stuff because it gives me something to try to connect together.
What's our word? Synchronicity.
See, yeah, that's your word. I haven't learned how to spell it yet, but I know I can say it.
Yeah.
So Amanda, I've been kind of taking some notes, and I have some points, and by no means am I like we're just talking, right? So
exactly, don't throw it at me.
Hey, this is y'all show. Go at it. Go for it.
So I don't know how many other millennials are on this show, but is anybody else picking up the Scooby-Doo Zombie Island vibes? Was that just me?
Yes.
We are now.
Does anybody else remember that? When they were werecats, right? Spoiler alert, sorry, but they right?
And that was
But if you'll remember, it was set in the South. It was Cajun.
That's right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Okay, can I add something here?
Yes.
I've got a friend that he never watches shows like this, right? I worked with him at the lottery. And he called me one night and he said, I've been watching some things and listening to you talk about things. He said, Roger, nobody knows this. And if you tell anybody, I'll kill you. He said, I'm a huge comic book nerd. He said, and all of these stories that I've been seeing, these so-called rabbit holes y'all talk about, I already know the stories because they were in the comic books from the 60s and 70s and 80s. So
nothing new under the sun.
He started giving me examples. And I'm like, that blew me away that they were already putting it out there in a way, So anyway,
they do that in a lot of movies and TV shows nowadays with other subject matters.
Yep.
Insert tinfoil hat.
Yeah. Don't even get me started. I could literally fill a whole episode just on literally the movie Predator alone. Don't even get myself started. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting thought of what the chicken before the egg. What came first? Was it the movie idea that is inspiring imaginations to see things or create things in their mind? Or again, I'm really big on the tulpa idea.
Yes.
Or
oh yes, tulpa. Yes.
I think it covers a lot of bases, but also I think too, if frequencies are real and thoughts are almost like radio waves in their sense, we could just all be picking up stuff where it's like, oh, this is like a really good idea, but really we're picking up on somebody else's thought process from wherever. Now, I'm not saying I believe that. I'm just saying the world's a crazy place, and
yeah, we've got some funny people that watch. I love sense of humor. I just ordered a chicken egg from Amazon. I'll let you know.
Yeah, and bringing up your point, Ashley, that's actually one of the things why I made sure to put this particular quote in my logo when I designed it, because it's so profound. Is the world is a crazy place, and it says specifically that the world the world is stranger than we think, but it should not be strange to think. So that's why it's so great to dig into these kinds of subject matters of any kind and use your own brain and do your own research in these stuffs and make up your own decisions on these things. And so do I think that there actually might be a 6-legged weird looking cat out there in the woods?
That is possibly the least weirdest thing.
Exactly. It's not the weirdest thing that's out there. Do I think myself it may be more leaning towards it probably was just an embellishment of the rogue black cats that people see out here that killed my parents' hogs when I was a kid, like many people here in the chat have been saying. That's personally where I think the Wampus cat might lean more towards. But again, every legend has a
So true.
beginning, a grain of truth in it. So,
and y'all,
we
the more we talk and about all this stuff, I'm starting to lean towards the supernatural being actually more natural. We just have forgotten that it's natural.
we just forgot about it. Absolutely.
Completely agree with you, Roger. And to be fair, I mean, like looking at things objectively, as much as I know we all love the weird, ooky, spooky side of things, we do know that animals in the wild, especially, are born with deformities. Who's to say that somebody didn't see a poor large cat that maybe had an extra limb or something? Again, a birth defect. People could be seeing anything really, but I did want to say too, there's also the possibility. I was taking notes.
Oh, you're good.
I love
it. It's also the possibility too that we can't discount that people. Roger, yay, we're in good company. A lot of people acquire exotic animals, whether it's legal or illegal in your town. And who's to say that, this panther was cute when it was a kitten, but now it's getting too big, so we're just gonna toss it out into the woods. And
110%, I agree with that. And I can actually go into some really cool stories with that. Growing up here, my whole life, my mother, my grandmother, all of my grandparents always told stories of there being weird looking cats here in the woods, like ligers and panthers and lions and stuff up here. And the reason being is because supposedly the circus trains that would come through here, especially they would go through Chattanooga and then down into Atlanta and everything, that they would wreck. The train wreck would happen, and the wild cats, of course, got loose and interbred throughout the mountains. Because my mother to this day talks about whenever she was a teenager, walking from her house to her grandparents' house, that she saw a lion in the cattle field. She said what caught her attention was the tail as it was bobbing through the thing, and she said it had a perfect poof ball, and it had a bit of a lion's mane to it, but it looked more like a cougar.
And she won the lion.
No, she won.
I'm sorry.
That was good. I give you that one. You deserve that one. That was good. That was a good one.
And you go back in history and the way they would handle things. If, let's say, we had a circus and we lost a bunch of things, we're not going to tell the truth because some of that stuff might have been illegal to start with, and I wouldn't want to be liable for a lion sneaking in and eating the whole family, so that's not my line. So a lot of that went on, and a lot of the probably
not my circus, not my lion.
That's right. Yeah.
Not my lions. Yep.
Yeah. So it's
yeah, for those of you who want to, if I can plug somebody in real quick.
Yeah.
There is a fantastic author. You can find her books on Amazon as well. And you might know her, Roger, Miss Judith Hensley. I actually put my mother's story. She interviewed my mother and put her big cat story along with several other people that I know of. And she's getting a collection of big cat stories, and you can find her book on Amazon. It's called Panther Tales. And it's a self-published, but it's really good because each story in it is, from a witness person. And she actually did some research on some of the train wreck stuff in it. Once my mom told her about it, there's a little excerpt after that talked about some of the train wreck things. But anyway, that book is actually really, really good. She's got 2 of them out that are the collection of those rogue black cat stories here in Appalachia. So just as a little shameless plug for somebody I love. Her books are great.
That's really cool.
Did she do a Mountain Mysteries book also?
I believe so. Yeah, she's gotten a lot of books out there. She's got 2 books on boogers. My stories happen to be in one of them, which is how I got to meet her. She put out a plug in one of many Bigfoot Facebook groups. And yeah, mine do the same thing, darling. And anyway, yeah, and I connected with her, and I was like, you know what? Yeah, I'll share it out there with her. And yeah, she's just a wonderful lady, and she's got a love for story collecting, which is where I've picked up a lot of, hoping that I can do the same thing, start collecting all of these legends and these stories so that they can be saved for future generations.
Yeah, and we can look around. I have books. A lot of them I haven't read yet. There are a lot of books out there, and then you have the VHS that are laying around, and it keeps
Oh
changing.
Lord, yes.
Everything keeps changing, so it takes a new generation, I think, to save it. So we'll have all of that. So because who knows, 100 years from now, people may not even know how to read.
That ain't wrong.
What Amanda and I do, it may be unofficial. I mean, we do it out of our own interest, but I feel, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, I don't want to speak for you, but
No, you're
that's one of the reasons why I love collecting story and eyewitness testimonies,
Yes.
because it gives me a chance to write them down, to record them, to make sure that there's some kind of evidence, proof, receipt, whatever. And I'm not saying that every single story I've ever heard I believe wholeheartedly. I'm not saying that they're all the most exciting tales, or I'm just saying this is a part of what we do. And I know that for me, I'm not in lakes all around. I'm not jumping into lakes looking for creatures, but I go to museums. I talk to people. I've been to eyewitnesses' houses who will have me and talk to me and just and talk to people and hear what they have to say and take account. And it's a very important part that I don't think necessarily gets overlooked. It, like, in a mean way, I just don't think it's something people think about as a part of the research.
Well, you don't realize me being older than y'all, we had a store, and I heard so many incredible stories of different types. And now those people that told me those stories are gone. I didn't write them down. I start to look and see, well, that thing had happened in 1977 and we read it in the paper. I can't find it anywhere. I'm not the only one that knows that story probably, but I would be paraphrasing in a way. I would, like you're saying, from the eyewitness, even though he was laughed at when that hit the papers. Oh, it was horrible. But it reminded me, when I first heard of the Dog Man, the creature that didn't make sense in 1977, 78, when I read about it in the paper, made a little more sense now that I'm like, wait a minute, what if it was something like this? So
yeah, Gene spitting facts over here.
Right. Yeah. Yep. And I was shocked.
Miss Naomi here says oral history is where it all began. Absolutely. And that was one of the things I was having issues with in some of my Wampus cat research, is a lot of the Cherokee stuff. It was all oral tradition. So to find anything, it was all just a citation of a citation of a citation. So haven't been able to find some of the original stuff because it is all oral history, but having that oral history is still a preservation of that subject. And so all of it's important.
And we're going to have Wind Clan Ken on in a few weeks. And we've been talking about privately, there's some things that he can't tell me, and I understand that. But we appreciate, because of the traditions and stuff. But Miss Bobby, me too. I love history so much. I don't get into the normal stuff they tell us about. But, if there's an item in an antique store and it came from another country, but it's here 85 years later, I'm like, how did that get here? What steps? How did it end up in Mooresville, Tennessee, or Petersburg, Tennessee, coming from Germany or coming from China? And one of these days I'm going to bring a Hain home with me, but it's going to be, haunted. But that's, I don't know why I've always felt, we're getting deep here, I've always felt connected to certain history. If that makes sense. It's not that I want to know dates and of major events. Everybody knows that. when we talked about doing this show, I'm like, hey, what were the people like? What were they doing? Where were they from? That had these traditions or legends. But anyway, so I'll sit on my hands now.
Oh, you're good. All right. So who wants to go next?
Well, Roger said he would be last, so
Nessie lady.
But real quick, I'm gonna shotgun a couple of things on yours just because it's gonna drive me crazy. So I'll say this. The fascination that I have with the idea of were creatures, right? And I think
Yes.
if we take a step back and we look at them, they tend to represent regionally, ironically, kind of their surroundings, right? So like,
yes,
it would make sense to me more of a cat-like creature in kind of the southern areas and things like that. But whenever you find true links to mysticism, and I mean that with all due respect, you tend to get these shape-shifting stories, and not just American, Native American, but you can go across the world and find other indigenous people. And again, very respectfully, I just mean they're not all making it up.
exactly. Just like with
coming from
Bigfoot
something.
stuff, you have stuff that, from over here in America and down in Australia, an island on the other side of the world,
The
with
Yowie,
describing the exact same types of phenomenon that before, settlers and everything, colonization, these people had never talked to each other. So it's the same thing with all, like I said, with the were legends of all these different were creatures. There's got to be connections for some reason.
And what about this? Y'all, I got to be good. My mom snuck in here. She's talking about Jesus. I'll be good. I promise, Mama. But what if people made up these legends for us to dig into, and there's other messages in there?
That's a possibility.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's just have random thoughts, and on my hands, I'm sitting on my hands again. But Da Vinci did that with his paintings and some of his stuff.
The hidden layers and different coatings and backwards and forwards and upside downs. Yeah.
So some of this stuff may not be what it seems on the surface. Also, that might be and it may be totally random or whatever. But that's another way to look at some of this. So, but anyway, y'all, sorry.
Oh, you could just on Amanda's chosen cryptid for this episode alone, you could take it 1,000 different ways. It could be something proverbially out of the portal that the Bigfoots come from. It could be, alien experimentation. Let's see if we can grow extra limbs on this thing. Like, no matter what your cup of tea is, it fits. Or there's room for it, for at least the discussion anyway.
Yeah.
And I just think that's so interesting. And like, I would like to know, and I'm not necessarily asking you specifically, Amanda, but just I'll probably be doing my own research on this later tonight. But how we have reports of livestock being taken away by Bigfoot. We have a lot of stories about that. Do we have any of the catty Wampus taking away livestock?
I'm glad you brought that up because really glad you brought that up because that was one of the many things that went along with the Wampus cat legend. Is that was a way for people to say, the cow was here last night. Where did it go? Oh, the Wampus cat must have went and took it. It was a way for people to pin where different animal mutilations, disappearances, injuries, things of that nature. Just like they do with Bigfoot and Dogman. Some of these stuff is with the Wampus cat too. So it's very, very interesting in how many similarities I was finding in this research that the Wampus of the Wampus cat that corresponded with Bigfoot and Dogman type stuff. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. What other questions? Do you have any other questions?
Well, not necessarily a question, just
Since we lost Roger.
We lost Roger. That's fine. He's probably like, Mom, I'm doing fine. No, I'm kidding. What was I gonna say? Oh, I'm gonna actually ask the chat about this because you guys would probably be able to, if you didn't know, you'd probably be able to look it up. And I feel like, am I crazy? earlier in this episode, I referred to that one picture of the Wampus cat as looking kind of Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes.
Wasn't there a big bad, like a villain in Alice in Wonderland called the Catty Wampus, or did I just pull that out of my brain?
That's a good question, actually. I don't remember.
I thought Catty Wampus.
There definitely could be.
Chat, if you know, like
does
maybe
anybody out there know? Because I will have to be looking that up now.
Because I know it as a term, like, oh, things went catty wampus. I know it as a term, but I could have swore there was a villain in Alice in Wonderland, or maybe a different similar beloved book.
Other random thing that I've discovered with the Wampus cat is it's actually in the Harry Potter universe now. They have a Wampus cat in the Fantastic Beasts. I don't know if it was in the movie or not. I have to go back and rewatch. But when I was searching up information on Wampus cat, the Harry Potter fandom kept popping up for that reason. And
really
also,
cool.
It is now a mascot for at least 5 or 6 different high schools, or elementary schools, middle schools throughout the United States. They are the Fighting Wampus Cats, and I thought that was really cool.
I like it. It's a little more oomph than your, fighting bobcats or whatever. No, we got 6 paws, and we're coming for it.
Oh, right, we coming.
That's funny.
The only other thing I was going to say is, and this is actually a pretty good segue, I would think, is you were talking about the escaped circus animals. Yes. One of my all-time favorite explanations for Nessie is that basically along the circus was coming through town through like Inverness and Drumnadrocket and all those, and there was a circus and an elephant got loose and decided to go for a swim in the loch, and there were the top of its head. And to be fair, you can look up, you can just Google right now or YouTube, pictures of elephants in the water, and it does make a very kind of iconic shape, but it doesn't explain hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of
it is very true,
But it is, when you said it, I couldn't help but laugh, because it's like, how prevalent are circuses and how many creatures were escaping at every
apparently
stop?
A lot, because it comes up in so many folklore stories of where these crazy animals came from, is wrecked circus trains or escaped from the circus.
It's an awesome it's an awesome cover story.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Oh, that's just, whatever. And we've heard it so many times. People that, hey, an eyewitness will tell you exactly what they saw, and then the authorities are like, oh, no, that was probably whatever, and then that's the end of it. Back in the day, anyway. Now we can share information like this, so they're losing control.
We talked. You even mentioned it earlier in this. Local authorities will tell you that these creatures aren't here, but they do. Like, we've seen them. We know. Like, it's kind of crazy, but
there's literally thousands and thousands of reports of these things from people, and that's inserting all cryptids of every kind, that come in every year and all over the planet. So just because it's not part of mainstream science or in some book that fits into the Darwinian, wheelhouse, doesn't mean it's not still a possibility. That's where the whole cryptozoology thing came from to start with.
And I'm glad you said that, because that actually flows really well into my topic.
Okay, awesome.
Because, all right, guys, I promise I didn't do this on purpose.
What'd you do?
I didn't deliberately pick a water cryptid. It just kind of happened regionally. I was just trying to think of interesting ones and ones that aren't as fairly well known. And I didn't, and I also wanted to be respectful to your guys' picks as well, and not necessarily, I wanted them to be kind of uniquely different. So I ended up picking the Cadborosaurus, affectionately known as Caddy, to everyone on my side of the country. Caddy is a reported sea serpent, which kind of already marks her as a little bit different. along the yes. So this is probably the most iconic picture of Caddy. Most everybody has seen this. Uh, actually, if you could pull up the map, Amanda.
The map?
Or
Okay,
Roger, I
got
don't
it.
know. Okay, perfect. So I'm this is not chronological. I'm sorry. I'm kind of jumping all over the place here. So Caddy is a reported sea serpent primarily around the Victoria Island, or excuse me, Vancouver Island here. As you can see, I don't know why I'm pointing to my screen. The audience can't see me pointing to my screen.
Hey, we talk with our hands too, darling.
I know.
It's all good. You've been around me too long.
Well, actually, yeah. Yeah, recently. Anyway, so focus range. As people can see in this map, we have the US Canadian border. There's the very tip of Washington, Port Angeles there kind of for reference, and Seattle there for reference. And then most of that is Canada. You have your British Columbia, your Vancouver, and then over here, your Vancouver Island. So kind of all along this coast. Now, this was just the best picture I could find for representation of the cluster areas, but by and large, these creatures are reported even past that point and as far down as California as well. So again, this was just a nice little point of reference map. The thing that really, to me personally, that sets Caddy apart is a couple of things. Again, sea serpent. Not a lake monster, but a sea serpent. And with that, and don't get into the picture just yet. If you want to go back to the original picture, cool, but save the you know what's for
all right, cool.
In a minute.
There's that one.
So very serpentine-like creature, and very distinctive in its look that varies from different reported water monsters. And the thing that I love about this is descriptions are so consistent. What you're seeing in this illustration actually is the very stereotypical Cadborosaurus, and kind of that long camel-esque head, very serpentine body. And yes, while it does reportedly have kind of flippers fins, the body is very serpentine, very snake-like, very, I don't know if
We pull up the other photo here with the
yes, thank
serpentine
you.
stuff. Yes.
Which
It's covering us up, but that's okay.
yes, please do. For me anyway. This is not a professional operation at all. Just an excited enthusiast. So I don't know if anybody else was a historic kind of map nerd or if they have pop culture references to it, but I know when I was growing up in the 90s, you would look at, a TV show would have like a map, or even a school history book will have old maps of like, the various oceans and seas, and somewhere on the map, it always seemed like there was some sea serpent on it, whether for fun or just. And so the thing I like about Caddy, or one of the many things I like about Caddy, is how well she fits that that imagery. Whether you're talking the kind of the serpentine, well, let me rephrase. So I don't know. I don't know if any other people except you, Amanda, might understand. So the shapes we see in water, whether it's Loch Ness or Lake Okanagan, or even in our oceans, where usually the descriptions are very different, similar but different. So you have your classic hump shapes that are kind of solid, but then you have what's called serpentine humps, where it's just that it's a snake-like, but you can see the different variations that it does. It looks just like a camel. Yeah. So reports of things like Nessie are so varied, really. Champ, Nessie, Ogopogo, Itzy, which is in Japan. They're all over the world. They do vary quite a bit, which does make it a little bit hard to pinpoint. And there's so much debate in the plesiosaur type, which is the most iconic look for these things, to, again, that more serpentine. But Caddy, and I keep trying to get to my own point here, is consistently this serpentine shape, which is very helpful for the people who are interested in this subject, because it leaves more room for the flesh and blood aspect of what these things could be or possibly are. It leaves a lot of room for undiscovered animals, not even necessarily in a prehistoric way. Yes, the name Cadborosaurus sounds very prehistoric. That's very deliberate. Saurus meaning great lizard. The cad part meaning wave, I believe. I had to look that up. And in fact, guys, I'm going to have to look through my notes through some of this because just because I'm enthusiastic doesn't mean I have the best
Don't worry,
memory.
if you saw me, I had mine pulled up on my my phone as well.
And while you're doing that, everybody's gifting memberships tonight, and Leonard made a donation. Thank y'all so much.
Yes,
Oh,
thank y'all
yes.
very, very
Totally
much.
unexpected, but thank y'all. But
That's really cool.
Well, Ashley, it looks like by the map,
We pulled the map back up for everybody.
This possibly, even though it's seawater, saltwater, is it the same type terrain, so to speak, underneath as like a lot really deep water, very similar in that way?
Yes. So Cadborosaurus catty is not reported to be in lakes. This is 100% sea serpent. Usually, the most sightings have been both in recent and older sightings tend to be on the shoreline. A lot of people see these things in bays. In fact, there's a really famous sighting of catty in San Francisco Bay where multiple people saw it. And the thing that always that I find interesting about that particular story is I think most people have an understanding of how busy one of the world's most popular bays is.
Yeah, San Francisco Bay is huge.
Was still spotted. So I mean, that's to say a lot for, activity. A tourist attraction. You have boats everywhere. People. I've been to San Francisco myself, and it's like that town never sleeps. It's always busy, and that particular park is always busy because who doesn't know the Golden Gate Bridge? I mean, it's so iconic. And I'm paraphrasing geographically here. Obviously, it's way bigger than that, but just saying, this wasn't just off some quiet shore that nobody's heard of and hasn't been to. I mean, these things are seen all over. In fact, like I said, there's some sightings in Seattle as well. I really, really wish I could get my really good friend David George Gordon, who, if he's watching this, by the way, hello. If not now, he'll probably be watching later. Hi, David. He actually got me turned on to catty. Now I had known about catty for a long time. If you're into any kind of water cryptids, you pick these up really quick. But David really dived into the research. I mean, years of research and investigating, and he's got some of the most thorough reports, and he's talked to people. I don't use this word often, but if there was an expert, David would be about as close to that for catty that I would feel comfortable saying. He would tell you different, but I'll say he's pretty much an expert, and kind of talking to him about these things as well. As much as I like to get into the woo aspect of things, I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. It is mine to kind of explore those options. Even when it comes to things like Nessie, I haven't 100% made up my mind on what things are. I feel like the goal in this is to just be open-minded enough to not say definitively, because until we pull one of these things out of the water and know specifically, you don't know. So, that being said, with catty, we do have some pretty interesting evidence.
That we do, yes.
So, some of you who are into the paranormal, ooky spooky world might have seen these pictures in passing. Yes. So this is probably one of the most famous pictures when it comes to catty. It is often associated to catty. We cannot honestly with 100% certainty say that, oh, this is 100% the long lost Cadborosaurus, whatever. We don't. But this image is the one that's often associated with the legend. It has, I don't want to say been debunked because it hasn't been debunked, not fully, but there have been attempts to debunk this as just a decayed whale carcass. The thoughts is I can't quite remember what type of whale they were claiming it to be, but just look at that thing.
I think
The
it's like
camel,
it's like a basking shark or something like that. I know that they've proved, not necessarily
yeah.
this one, but some of the other water monsters that they've pulled out
Oh,
of the water.
yeah,
Look at
the really famous looking plesiosaur in that Japanese fishing boat. Then it's like, oh, it's just a
Yes.
basking shark. No, it's not.
No, it's not. But something very interesting about this old image, now that I can see it, I've only seen it what you sent me on my phone. Now
Yeah,
what Wade here
small.
just said, it really does look like a camel in the face. Like if you look at this image and then let me pull up the other one, they look very, very similar.
And
Like
that's what
look
I
at the
was
shape of this
saying.
head and then this right
Yeah,
here, the shape of that right there is it's
yeah.
it's there. I
And
mean, there's no denying that.
also
when
look at
How
the
old
tail.
is this picture, Ashley?
that picture I believe was taken, oh gosh. It definitely the early 1900s.
Mhm.
Um, if not even late 1800s. I'm pretty sure it was within 1910, but I'll have to double check on that. But that's what I was saying in the beginning. The thing that really sets Caddy apart is the descriptions of Caddy have not changed from the
Mhm.
time of sightings. You have very much the camel-like head. You have this serpentine body with the flippers. And even though you can't necessarily see in this particular picture any type of fins, you could easily see, or the flippers, you can easily see where they would go. Um,
Mhm.
and I do want to point out as well, what a lot of people don't realize about this particular picture as well is sightings of the Cadborosaurus have been happening before this photo. This photo, or the legends of this sea serpent, now whether it had the name Caddy at the time, that's arguable. But a creature
Mhm.
matching a very similar description had been seen before this photo had been taken. So this is one of those instances where the legend was already kind of there, or at least the stories were kind of there. This photo
Mhm.
came along. I think along with this photo, more interest came along, and then we've been kind of piecing it together ever since.
Mhm.
In fact, let me just refer to my notes here real
There's a
quick.
there's a lot of detail in the tail.
Yes, yes.
I mean
Again,
that
I keep pointing at my computer screen as if you guys can see.
well the picture that we saw earlier, the drawing, and go back to the drawing, and
Yeah, let me pull
then
the drawing back up
yeah, and
now that
then
we've
and
seen
y'all
that.
look at the tail on the drawing, and then look at this,
Yeah, give me a
which
second. Sorry, I'm doing some behind the scenes stuff. There we
yeah,
go.
And I've already misspoke quite a few times here. I said wave in the cad as far as Cadborosaurus, but it's actually from um uh the Greek meaning bay. So
Okay. Which would
yeah,
make sense considering it's all along this bay here.
right.
yeah, it's it's found in bays. I can't think of any. I'm not saying they're not out there. I'm just saying I can't immediately off the top of my head think of reports of Cadborosaurus in open water, like away from the shoreline. All the sightings that I'm aware of have been shoreline bays, shallower water, all things considering, if that makes sense.
Y'all are gonna make me have to start looking at some of the maps of Canada, because I'm gonna just go ahead and say a couple of these spots here that are shown. I thought they're on the east side. I'm just I'm looking at the map earlier. I'm like, oh, I'm so dumb. That's not this.
No,
So, no, well, like I said, we're you are, especially there, you're landlocked there in
Right.
Tennessee. So, and what's interesting too is that somebody in the comment brought up Ogopogo earlier, even though it's just barely off the screen right here. That general area of Canada right there is where the Ogopogo stuff is at.
Yeah, actually, so for reference, I'm about 2 hours away from Ogopogo, give or take, and it's I think I would feel safe of saying like Kelowna as far as kind of places that people would know off the top of their head as far as Canada geography. Kelowna would be the unofficial official home of Ogopogo. So it's all within, I mean, I know technically Canada is another country, but I do kind of consider it within the Washington state folklore as well. If I can get there within 8 hours, I'm claiming it.
You're local.
Right.
You might want to talk to Blazer there. He said he said I've seen Ogopogo. So
all right, Blazer, yeah, we'll
get an
get
eyewitness
together after this.
testimony and put it together. Yeah.
I would
Sweet.
love
Yeah,
I would love
definitely.
to
Well, hit us up.
collect that.
Hit us up afterwards. Whoa, I'm big again.
That's funny.
Yeah, hit us
Y'all-
up after the show, Blazer. Yeah, me and Ashley would love to hear what you saw.
For
Yeah,
sure.
and it's a shame that we have to keep going over and over this stuff, but I've never seen that picture at all, and I've looked at some of the weirder stuff all my life, and there's so much of it, and I don't know if some of the search engines, hide this stuff. I've heard that before, where you go try to find something, and
Maybe just a little bit.
it's just like,
But again, insert my tinfoil hat.
Tinfoil hat.
Well, this is off the subject, but kind of, sort of on the subject with the giants that we'll talk about later, and the skeletons that they have found. In 2010, they had a contest to see who could make the best fake photos. Now, guess what they use all the time? Like, oh, those are fake. Those are, well, why in the world would you do that? Unless you needed some, right? So anyway.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Roger. There's quite a few famous giant photographs, some very compelling, even now, even though we know that some of them are beyond a shadow of a doubt hoaxes, but they are compelling. And I have a theory about that. I think if you were just a random person, like a high school kid who's like, Cadborosaurus, whatever, but maybe that's not the best example, but just you look up, you might get some information. Yeah. But I think if you're really digging into certain topics, I think it'll be like, okay, you've had enough, and they'll just start tightening the tab a little bit. That's kind of my theory, because I actually had to have Amanda help me a little bit with some of these pictures, because it's like, no, I know that I've seen this picture, and then they become very hard to find. Or, sometimes, I mean, I'm not perfect. Sometimes you misremember and you're like, oh, I was actually thinking of this photo and this photo, and I they're two separate photos or whatever. I mean, that does happen.
Yeah.
But what's interesting to me, Roger, kind of similar to one of your points earlier, was you really okay. Let me get my thought together, because you guys know, I get so excited and I go a million miles an hour. And yes, while we're sitting on the porch drinking tea, we do have an audience as well. So let me get myself together.
You're doing fabulous. Keep going. Of course, I'm used to riding along with you. So,
I think too, the older we go back, or the longer we go back in time, I think there was also just this acceptance of weird things, and these acceptance of legends and myths and superstitions and things just as the truth. And I think people like that sea serpent, or the supposed sea serpent photo that was just on the screen there, we actually have multiple angles of it, but it's the same thing. They probably like, hey, look what we found, but to not understand the importance of what they had, it's like, oh, okay, that was fun, let me just chuck it back into the ocean.
Some weird, stinky, smelly carcass. Well, why do we want this around? Get rid of it. It smells.
Here's another point. Somebody in chat made this point. you know how hard it was to get a photographer back then?
Oh yeah.
And like, so it had to be something very confusing to them to actually take a picture of it.
Back when
You know what I
pictures
mean?
took like 30 minutes
Right.
to do
Not to
one.
mention the price of them back then as well. It would be close to like, hundreds of dollars in today's money.
Yeah, I don't know about.
Yeah, that goes into the would that possibly go into some of the tulpa stuff there? That
It's
comment? Creating
very
cryptid artwork could
possible.
possibly manifest cryptids' entire reality? Yeah. Well, creepypastas. That's basically what that is.
Yeah.
For sure.
Welcome in, Iron Maiden. That's a cool name.
Yeah.
Yeah, and see, the thing is, when we're having these discussions, you're like, we're all the kind of the same, or we'll think of like 18 different questions at one time and we can't get them all in,
I know.
but you write it down for later. But
That's what I do. Yeah. I love when we start talking about the quartz.
that's a good question.
Yes. I
Who
love
had the
that
question
theory as
about?
well.
I think
Let me
Wendell.
pull it up again. I think that was Wendell, actually. It was.
Hi, Wendell. So yes and no. I think that this is I'm speaking in my own personal thoughts. I'm not endorsing anything. I'm not saying this is exactly how it is because we don't know. I personally feel like they are cousins, and I know that's kind of a playful thing to say, or can be playfully interpreted, but truly, I think that they are of the same family, but not identical. And the reason why they wouldn't be identical, I think, is if these things are the Nessies and the Champs specifically are as old as we think that they are. And again, I've said this before in terms of like sharks, alligators, crocodiles, these ancient things that have been around forever. We're just familiar with them. They're probably going to have some different traits for where they are specifically. What you would need to be to exist in, say, Lake Champlain as Champ is not going to be identical to what you would need to survive, say, in Loch Ness. Example, the eel population in Loch Ness is notoriously off the charts. Like, in fact, one of my favorite theories is that Nessie sightings are attributed to a giant eel. Now, how that eel got giant, there's like 20 different variations of different lore on that alone. But Champ, while I do believe that there have been eel sightings, or it's known that there would be eels in that lake on occasion, to nowhere near the numbers of, say, Loch Ness. Right there is small and as like, okay, that's weird, Ashley. Why are you bringing up eels? Because that is significant to these individual environments. That's just one example. So no, they couldn't be identical because the environments aren't the same. But they could be very much where you pull them out of the water side by side. They probably could look very identical, but they physically couldn't be identical to survive in two separate ecosystems. Again, just my theory, not an expert.
And
Clearly.
Amanda, you take
that's
out.
great.
Will you take out the names of what she just said and insert Bigfoot? And you got the same thing, like depending on where they're at and what they have to deal with.
Exactly. I was
what they-
100% thinking the same thing. And also, you mentioned environment, them, being, what's the words I'm looking for? They're specific to their environment. Goes back to what we were learning in a previous episode about environmental DNA being part of the studies, that whenever you can't necessarily study the creature that you're looking for itself, you can study the environment that it is in. So again, it's all connected.
Well, people
Shout
to
out
bring
to
up the quartz thing. Sorry,
no good.
what I'll talk about later will have a lot more to do with the energy in the quartz. So
Oh, that'd be cool, because I'm interested to learn about all of that, because I've got some really interesting, or I've heard interesting theories when it comes to the quartz stuff.
Yeah, quartz is.
So who are you going to
quartz
shout
is
out, Ashley?
he'll never see this, but Adrian Shine, who, as many here would know, is a naturalist, so at heart a scientist, for ecological study, so lake, landscape, animals, biology, things like that. He's often pegged as the Nessie guy. We spoke about him on my last episode, but what he spent a lifetime researching, yes, Adrian, I know one of my favorite people.
And yes, he's still alive, to who is asking.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, he's still kicking. He's just so far away. But a lot of what we can deduce from Loch Ness comes from the research he has spent his entire life doing, not necessarily Nessie related. I am so thankful that we have a deep, rich history of things like rock formation, soil samples. We have known water samples that can tell us in small part, again, not necessarily Nessie related, the ecosystem of the water when it comes to things like peat moss and different plant life material, stuff that helps us build a bigger picture. That type of research is boring but important. We can then take those samples, that type of data, and we cross-reference it. So example, Lake Okanagan up there in Canada with the Ogopogo. Are there what similarities are there? What isn't? What should be there to support life? What isn't? Even the boring stuff is so important. So when we're talking about environment, it's all important, not just
absolutely.
Not just the Indiana Jones adventure.
Well.
Y'all having Ashley and Amanda associated with the show now, and we're actually teamed up. Well, she told us something the other day. Let me make sure this is correct. So Squatchin Holler was the Nessie episode that we all did, was being viewed in a pub in Scotland. Is that correct?
From what I understand, yes.
Okay. So some of Ashley's friends was actually watching it probably later, I imagine. And that would be cool to have a picture of it on the TV. But yeah, the more we talk about this stuff, we're getting some of the same questions about some of these creatures or whatever. And I guess until somebody gets a body, we're not going to know for sure. But
that's what they say all the time when it comes to the Bigfoot stuff. Yeah. And like Ashley brought up a great point, all of us here I know I wear my woo hat big and strong, but you have to have that science to go along with it. So unfortunately, people say you can have all this evidence that you want. You can have hair samples, footprint cast, eyewitness testimony, all these things to prove that there's something here. But to a lot of people in mainstream science, unfortunately, having a body is the only way to prove it. So then they could analyze every detail of it. And like with your Cadborosaurus, so what's so interesting is like in Bigfoot stuff, you have the patty types. They're all very similar in description. The skunk ape ones, they're lean and spindly. They're all very similar in description. So are they two specific types like what you described, Champ and Nessie? So again, all the same points are connect across the different subjects, whether it's water monsters, land monsters, known animals like tigers, leopards, lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my, it all connects. So it's again, it's very fascinating.
It is.
Yeah. It's and I love this idea of doing the different ones, and we kind of started with stuff that that's kind of close to what we've been interested in. And as we go forward, I'll get outside my comfort zone some. And as long as I can find, research, I may need help because I started reading about, like typing in like obscure whatever, and you can't find it because there's not much out there on it. But there are some amazing stories that I just learned about this week. And I'm like, well, do I stay with my original intent or just save that for later? So
same with me. As I was researching all the Wampus cat stuff, I was coming across so many other things. And I was like, no, I need to stay focused. I've already got this. I'm already digging in. Let's just stick with this. And again, save that for another episode.
Yeah, it's I knew it was going to be fun. It's just and y'all and they'll be different. The shows will be different. Some of the guests that we can get will be more geared towards Bigfoot, and some will be towards the Xtra show. And Dennis Carroll agreed to be on one of these. So I would love to pick his brain on some of the more, and that way we can take notes and say, hey, we can dig into that a little bit later, But he has some amazing stories. He's been doing this for decades.
Awesome.
That'd be really exciting. And I promise if I'm on the show again, it's not going to be, water monsters all the time, but
hey, we don't care. Don't
be. A cryptid is a cryptid is a cryptid. Right. Let's learn all about it.
That's exactly.
The more you, whatever subject you're into or whatever you pick, I didn't know about it. I've heard the name Cadborosaurus, but I never put it like, I thought it was maybe just a dinosaur that I never really, heard of, like Stegosaurus or whatever.
I thought they were the company. I thought they were the company that made the chocolate Easter eggs. I didn't know.
That was what I was going to say. I always think about the Cadbury eggs too, Cadborosaurus. And the real takeoff point of the Cadborosaurus, I do want to correct, was in the 1930s. Not to say that the reports of this creature don't go way beyond that, but just Cadborosaurus is really when it starts shaping around the 30s, which ironically, and I do think they're not as connected as it might seem, but the resurgence in Nessie took off in the late 30s and in the early 40s
as soon as
as well.
You said the 1930s, I was like, light bulb. Yeah, that was when all the Nessie stuff took off. Wasn't it 1933 was the surgeon's photo? Or
I believe so.
Yeah. So interesting.
And
I know a lot more about it than I did, a few weeks ago. And like I said, we had a little information when I was younger, but not a lot on it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've watched documentaries and just sit there in awe and just it when you have an imagination, you have these questions like how would it have enough food, and where could it go? Like, could it go in the cave and come out in the salt water and be like a bull shark, can live in two different types of water and all that. So, but I think it's cool. I mean, it just opens up another part of the world for us.
It really does.
I do want to say as well, guys, I'm fully aware I really didn't give you a whole lot of information. I didn't give you dates and times, and I was more just excited talking about it and kind of where it lives, and fully aware. So if I missed any questions or people have questions, even if it's not this episode directly live, I can try to get back to people as well. But I'll say, because I know we still have to leave time for Roger's subject as well, but a couple of key points I do want to bring up about Caddy is, again, all personal opinions here. Of all the cryptids that thanks, Danny. I needed to hear that because it doesn't feel like that. Thank you so much.
You're doing fabulous, darling.
Yeah.
Well, it's good time with friends, really. But so, a couple of the things that really set Caddy apart to me as a cryptid that I like. Okay, I gotta stop reading the comments. It's distracting.
I'm sorry.
I have to stop looking at them when I'm doing talking because it gets me distracted.
No, Roger, keep it up. I'll be more focused. But the reasons why I love Caddy as just a cryptid in general, not just because she's a water monster cryptid, not just because she's in my neck of the woods, even those are all bonus sprinkles on top of a little lovely cupcake, but really it's for all the things that she's not. Caddy is not associated to woo in any strong way that I'm aware of. If there are like a Native American legends or something out there about Caddy and something more mystical, and it doesn't have to be Native American, but I'm just saying as an example, I don't know. everything I've heard about this creature, talking to people and doing my own research, is that it's very much flesh and blood. So either just an undiscovered animal, which, as Amanda pointed out, is the whole purpose beyond cryptozoology, is the discovery of animals not known to scientific scrutiny. And that's before you even add any of the woo. These are just animals that, again, are rumored to exist, but we don't know for a fact. Over time, over the last, I would say 30, 40 years especially, it's taken a turn to really, yes, Michael, we're going to be friends. I just know it. Also a favorite. So again, Caddy either being very much a flesh and blood creature, either an undiscovered animal, or potentially some thought to be extinct creature, potentially. But again, Caddy's not, despite the saurus in her name, is not necessarily attributed to any known dinosaur either, which makes her even more fascinating to me.
That is interesting.
So I do, like I said, like to lean into the woo aspect of cryptids and strange things, and whether I believe it or not is different, but it's fun to make room for the woo. But I love Caddy for all the things that she's not, and she's, again, very much in the flesh and blood, undiscovered, true blue, genuine cryptid in the classical understanding of that word. Do we have time to throw up that last photo, or can we even do side-by-side photos? I don't know if we
Not
can.
that I figured out how to do, and unfortunately those 3 photos are the only ones that I'm seeing that we got put up. Well, actually there was 4, excuse me. This one here,
Okay.
the carcass photo,
Yep.
the drawing, and the
map.
The map. Okay.
The map.
So there was another, and honestly, guys, you can just do a Google search, Cadborosaurus. If you can't spell it, just speak it into your AI of choice. It will pull it up for you. But there are 2 quite famous black and white photos. We have one of them. What's really interesting is we happen to have 2 of the same creature in the same location. It's just literally somebody took a photo this way and then they went over here and they took it that way, or vice versa, whatever.
Different
and it gives
angles of the same thing.
Different angles of the same thing, which again, for that time period, quite remarkable. And I will say, Caddy, it's not to say there's a lot of evidence for Caddy, but rather, how do I say this? It's not that there is a lot of physical proof for Caddy currently at the moment, but you could easily justify in your head, more plausible actually, that I would argue it's more plausible, the idea of Caddy, than say a Loch Ness or a Champ or an Ogopogo. If this thing's living in the ocean, not only is there way more room to hide, way more food sources, way less interference with human interaction on a day-to-day basis that might be disrupting its habitat, and just a better breeding ground. Again, you have a much bigger space to work with. So again, just as an excited person, I love Caddy for all the things that she's not, that do set her apart from other more romanticized, more popular kind of water monsters. If she really is the legendary sea serpent, it's just kind of exciting to think of it that in those terms.
Well, it's exactly like you said, everything is there for it to be a true blue flesh and blood thing that can survive. Because that's one of the things that people bring up with Ogopogo and Loch Ness all the time is, well, there's not enough food source there for it or enough room for it to breed and everything. If it's out there in the ocean and in those bays, it's got all the room that it needs.
And it's not going to be subject to seasonal changes. I mean, even, not to say that there aren't seasons in California or anything, or Canada, but obviously we have our seasons. But when you get out into open water like that, those types of things become way less of an issue. So you're talking about a reliable climate and ecosystem.
All right.
That
I
was
tried to run the
Good
clock
job.
for you, Roger.
Well, the thing is, no, mine's going to be more simple. I'm not. When I decided to talk about what I was going to talk about, one of the factors was that Amanda and Ashley haven't heard these stories yet. Also, the connections with some of the woo we talk about, and I feel like some of the supernatural is natural, and it maybe looks supernatural. I'm not saying there's not such a thing as supernatural, but I coming into this was talking about Bigfoot because I saw one and all that. I was like 95.5, flesh and blood and all that, just like a lot of people. But there are stories around here about strange things. There's stories in what I found out in researching. Every little community has something strange. Whether it's the cat you're talking about or a water demon or whatever, they call them so many different things. And so what I decided to do was just focus on a local legend here. And there's some information out there. And what got me into that was I saw it. It's the Chapel Hill Light in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. And it's a little town here in Marshall County. You got the Henry Horton State Park here. That's north of here. It's really close to where we have our north end hotspot that we research. It's a growing town. It's just a sleepy little town. But if you look over to the left where Holy Smokes Barbecue, I think there's a train track. If I don't think I can zoom in, but it runs parallel. It runs on the left side of 31 there, north and south. And I'd heard about the Chapel Hill Light, and some friends were going to go in high school. I think I was about 18. It was senior year, about this time of year. Good, cool night, clear night. And the first time we went, I didn't see anything. I did see what people mistake for the Chapel Hill Light. If you're sitting at this one intersection out in the middle of nowhere and you're looking north, every now and then, way up the tracks, you'll see a car pass by. And they're like, oh, that's the light. And no, that's a car. I mean, you can tell it's a car because sometimes they're coming the other way, right? And so a lot of people, when you look online and you say, oh, it's faint, it's distant. No, that's not it. So this is what Grok told me. And for some reason, it called me Emma. I marked that out. So it says, let me tell you about the Chapel Hill Ghost Light in Tennessee. It's one spooky tale. In the small town of Chapel Hill, about 46 miles south of Nashville, there's a legend tied to the train tracks that's been creeping folks out for decades. The story goes on that on June 8th, 1942, a guy named Skip Agent. Now, there's a lot of agents still left in the area, so the family's still around. He was walking along the tracks at night carrying a lantern when he got hit by a freight train and didn't make it. Ever since, people claim to see the mysterious light floating around the tracks, swaying back and forth, sometimes moving closer or even sneaking up behind you. Locals say it's Skip's lantern still shining, watching every train go by. Other versions, I won't go word for word. Other versions are about, a signalman or a brakeman haunting the tracks. There's been a few accidents. Now, John Rickman, his wife was one of my teachers. So they're part of a group of Us Two and Him. If y'all look up that, their country trio is pretty funny. They do a lot of funny songs, but they wrote it's called the Chapel Hill Ghost Light. And back in the 60s and 70s, thrill seekers would flock to the tracks, especially around Halloween. And it got kind of dangerous. I've got a funny story about 30 people, college kids getting arrested when I worked at the sheriff's department. I won't get in that tonight. But some people say, it's an eerie orb. And it says it got so wild that cops started cracking down. It did. I was there when the CSX train, the company, they called and they said, look, we got to stop this. There's a guy from Bedford County got the truck stalled out and he got hit and killed. And that's in here. That was when I was working for the sheriff's department back as a dispatcher.
He was in search of the lights and got killed?
I'm sorry?
He was in search of the lights and got killed?
Yeah, he pulled up on the tracks in his company truck. He was working for a company.
Oh.
pulled up on the tracks, and instead of getting out of the truck, it wouldn't start. Train was coming. Instead of getting out of the truck and running because it was his boss's truck, he hung in there with it trying to start it, and he didn't get out in time. So he
Oh, man,
actually got
that
killed.
stinks.
So right after this happened, this was like 1990-ish. They did cut down on people, coming and looking. So some people say it's, swamp gas or phosphorus, or some say it's too strange. There was one thing that said, right here, not sitting there like a train headlight, it sways, across the tracks, or zips away. Okay, now I have the sighting that I have. I'll tell the story, but I got AI to make the closest thing possible to what I saw. And the one thing is the glow on the tracks. As this thing moved towards us, the glow on the tracks ran down the rails, several yards to us. And it was about the size of a basketball, and it did look electric white. It was off the ground, kind of like this. But so what happened that night? We pulled up as our second trip up there, and I'm on the driver's side, which is the side it came up on. But about 50 or so yards away, I noticed, and I'm scared, y'all. I mean, I was more scared of somebody messing with us than actually seeing something. I didn't really believe it. But I had seen some weird things at that point in my life. So I was like, okay, let's see. Well, I saw a movement to my right, back behind me, and it's dark out there. There's no street lights. There are nothing. There's no light at all. And then we saw the crossing, a mile or so up, or even further. We did see some of the vehicles sporadically crossing up there. But when I saw this thing, it was unmistakable. There was no faking it. It was electric white. It didn't make a sound. And if you think about it, if you have an orb that's emitting light in every direction, when it was coming through the woods, as it passed the trees, and those tree shadows were changing and dancing because the light source was changing position, immediately. That was one of the freakiest things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
And
I can imagine so.
I cannot explain it well enough to explain to people how that looked. Now, if it had been a lantern, if it had been somebody with a flashlight, if it had been somebody with something, the light that's emanating in every direction would illuminate them, right? You would think. There was nobody around this light. This thing was by itself. It comes up the contour of the tracks. And when it got up on the tracks, we were sitting on the tracks, and I'm looking right out the window at it. When it came up to the rails, it stabilized, and it started sliding towards us like
wow.
like a magnetic pull or something. Well, it came to us. It probably came about 20 yards, within about 30 yards of us. And whatever force had pulled it to the tracks, I mean, it was fast, ripped it off the tracks, and it went down through the woods again. But it followed the contour of the land. And
interesting.
Yes. And it went out of sight as fast as it came into view. But we got to see it, it could have been a minute. I don't think it was a minute, but it was a long
like
time.
it.
And so that's the first orb I had ever seen. I had seen things in the sky, but I had never seen a mysterious light like this. But I had seen ball lightning. Now, that's what it reminded me of. And lightning is natural, right?
Mhm.
So my young mind was like, was it the friction of the tracks from the previous train? Was it
Kinetic energy, possibly.
right?
Yeah.
Was there some kind of material in the soil and these rocks? Because we're talking about the rocks and stuff that were there. Was it a release of energy from that? When you put pressure on quartz, that's when it releases the energy. And I found out recently that quartz is neither a liquid or a solid.
Well, that was my question, or I had a question, Roger, when you saw this, and obviously you're not getting like the best look at it, and you're still kind of processing what it is, but
right.
A ghost light, did it look plasma-y to you? Like, no.
No, it was when the ball lightning was round, but it wasn't perfect. This thing was absolutely perfectly spherical.
Sphere.
It wasn't egg shaped. And the reason, when you ask about, when I shook my head when you said plasma like, fast forward years later, Heather and I were at this land in this close to the same area, and that orb we saw looked plasma like. It wasn't completely round, and it was pulsating slowly, changing sizes. It was long. It was about that long, and it looked more plasma like. And
so you have the frame of reference.
The brightness wasn't it wasn't as bright. So let's see. I don't know if I can do this. So if you take this light here, this is on the brightest setting, and then there's a hold on somewhere. Well, that's the brightest setting, and then you change it. See right there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the difference between the Chapel Hill light and the plasma light we saw. So there was a difference.
One's like a bright, like a white, and then the other was more of a warm tone. Gotcha.
Would you say the plasma was more of the warm?
Yes. And
interesting.
And we got a good 20-minute look at this because it's on Heather's side of the truck, and it's only it's 20 yards away, 10 feet up in a tree, and it's in the limbs. And we said, now I didn't have a show at the time, so I didn't take my phone and try to record it. And I did move the truck back and forth to get different angles, just like your photographer did with the sea serpent or whatever. So we're getting the different angles just to see. I went back and checked the next day. There's nothing in the tree. There's no disturbance in the leaves around the bottom. And when it went away, it just slowly just faded away. Now, and just to nothing. So I started looking up the fungi or whatever that's illuminating. What's it called? The
bioluminescence.
Bioluminescence. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Ken, it's got to be a combination of the material in the ground, the kinetic energy, maybe, and all this together. And people have said that you have to go, the weather conditions have to be just right. Now, why is that? So the atmosphere has to be a certain way. And we were there, just happened to be there.
Do you recall what it sounded like? So I know a lot of paranormal, like Bigfoot comes to mind, but things get unworldly quiet, like just unnaturally silent. You were in the truck for the first lights, but can you recall anything that you heard? Or
both were absolutely silent.
Interesting.
Both were absolutely silent. You would think something that looked like it was full of energy. Now I'm gonna tell you something that's close. There's a video out there. I don't know whether it's fake or not, but there's an orb going across a double train tracks or whatever, and it's shooting little things of lightning out. And
I've seen that video.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like, but it didn't make a sound and it didn't arc. So it was different than that. But that's the closest thing I've ever seen to it.
And I apologize. I'm not trying to interview you, but I'm
no, go ahead. That's what we're here for.
Right. So did you happen to notice if it got quiet prior to you noticing it, or did you just kind of notice it all at the same time?
It was
you can remember?
It was dead quiet on both occasions. We had the windows down on the truck both times. And Heather, she spotted it first, this latest one. She's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "What?" "In that tree." And I can't see it. And I'm like, I don't know. And I'm looking, and so I moved the truck. I'm like, I don't know. Where's the moon? Yeah, I said, so she saw it first. And we're watching it, and it's stationary in its spot, but it's not being still. It's like it's alive. And
pulsating, like you said.
It's pulsating. and it's
pulsating, undulating,
really slow.
Yeah.
Yes, and it would get, and it wouldn't do the same end at the same time. One of them would be getting bigger, but it's still connected, right? And then it
Like a
gets
lava
smaller.
lamp.
It was wild. Now I will take responsibility for not filming that because I did not think about it. I knew it was something really weird. I really didn't want to get out of the truck, but because we
That's
had,
fair.
but
Yeah.
so Peyton and I have been in the same spot, and we saw a light blue, similar to a glow of this, but in a spot where if you were somebody without a flashlight walking in this area, you probably wouldn't have made it out alive because of the crevices, the deep, just it's horrible walking conditions, heavy, big rocks, deep holes. This thing moved a little bit, but it didn't pulsate like this, the one we saw. Now,
How fast did the first light you see? You said it was following the contours of the Earth. It'd probably be hard to judge distance or have a frame of reference, but how fast could you surmise it was going when it was fleeing?
When it appeared and when it left, I believe when it appeared it was fast, but it wasn't as fast when it left because it looked like a force snatched it off, and when it let loose, it was gone. It's way faster than any human can run. I do know that. And the terrain that it was running or coming through wasn't something you would try to do that anyway. It was hardwoods with a little bit of undergrowth, and then when it left, it went through like briars and really thick stuff, So the speed on it was probably the most incredible part was the shadow dancing, because it wasn't going in a straight line. It was like it was it's like there was some kind of magnetic pull that was pulling it, so it wasn't in a straight line. It was not zigzagging so much as shimmying. And then when it got up on the tracks, and now when it's on the tracks, I'm looking right at it. I'm looking straight down the tracks out the right window. And when it goes up on the rail, that orb goes up on the rail. It if you ever, I don't know how to explain it. It shook, and then it stabilized real slow. You know what I mean? And it's almost like those two tracks was a positive negative type thing, and it stabilized it. And then it started sliding, but it was up off the ground. It started sliding towards us really slow, and I'm like, we might need to get out of here.
Yeah.
But it ripped away and it left. But as scared as I was before I saw it, after I saw it, it looked more natural to me. It looked more electrical. Like I couldn't understand how it could have been there. But I did see a documentary later that two scientists had heard about these lights, like they mentioned earlier. Somebody mentioned in chat, there are several places. Well, this place, it was a valley, and there's a river in the middle. And I've told this before, but I was really interested in it because they're going to study these lights that would just appear and rise up right out of the water. And they saw them. These two scientists saw these lights. And they started studying the soil and the water and all that. Well, the water had sulfur in it, and the one side had lithium and the other side had something else. And then with the foggy conditions, it created this big battery.
Interesting.
And this was energetic, the lights releasing or whatever, then they would fade out. Well, mine didn't do that. Something was interfering with this thing, like where it wanted to go. It couldn't because of a pull of some kind. And
so maybe
something I
the thing
noticed you kept.
itself. Oh, go ahead, Amanda.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, we both heard. That's something I noticed you've said it a couple of times, is that it was pulled by something else, not like it was, it was going in the direction that it wanted to go.
Right.
Something it was trying to, but something pulled it. Question:
Yep,
whenever you said it when it was going back through, coming through the woods, then it came up to the tracks, and then also when it went down into the woods. did it go through, like, say, ball, and as it was going through the briars and stuff like that, it just went through it? Or did it go around all of the underbrush and the trees and stuff like that?
That's a good question. And the answer is I don't know.
Mhm.
Because when it went back, it's at an angle where the post of the truck is, and I lost sight of it here.
Gotcha.
I've wondered that also, because when I say it was being pulled and manipulated, either the magnetic, whatever the trees or whatever was put to, I believe it was, you're right, not being propelled by anything, not by its own power or thoughts or whatever. It was
Mhm.
being pulled by the magnetic pull of the tracks. It came up, violently shook and stabilized, came to us, and then was ripped away again. That's exactly what it looked like. It didn't look like it was under its own
It
going where
wasn't
it wanted to.
sentient itself. It was,
Yeah.
yeah, interesting.
So then years later, you see these trains, and that's how they do. They turn the magnets on and they lift up.
Yeah.
They don't even touch the rails. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's kind of what this was doing. It wasn't touching
Yeah.
it. So I don't know. And then we've got, who knows what minerals are in the ground, and for people to say that it had to be a certain type of night weather-wise, that's exactly kind of what the scientists said with the lights coming out of the water. Yeah, Heather, now tell us what really happened that night. Yeah, y'all talk with Heather. It was 20 minutes. It's like not a 5 second or 30 second, whatever. It's like we had enough time to move the truck several times and to get different looks at it. Now in the
20
zoo,
seconds in any kind of or 20 minutes in any kind
yes,
of sighting is like eternity,
yes.
or might as well be.
So
You
that's
started to tell it at the beginning of the story, Roger. You were saying it was did you say it was a cold or like chilly or what?
cool, clear,
Cool. And
no humidity. Yeah,
no humidity. The moon wasn't out.
nope.
Interesting.
Yep. No reflection. It was not a reflection. We checked, and I'm thinking, well, maybe her brother put a piece of equipment like a trail camera up and it's making some kind of odd looking light. I went the next day, or the next morning I got up, drove right back up there. I'm looking, there's nothing there. Also, the leaves hadn't been disturbed. They had, since they fell, they have never been disturbed. So, and then a lot of the limbs were so small, they couldn't, anything with any kind of weight at all, those limbs would have sagged, So I don't know which limb it was on, but whichever one, it stayed on that one. If
It's
it was on a
amazing
limb,
what our
it may not
brains
have been
try
on a
to
limb.
piece it together.
Yeah.
It was wild. But okay, so we go back to the place, and I tell Keely, and her husband at the time, really sensitive to paranormal, ghosts, and all kind of stuff. And I'm like, look, you can go with us, but you have to do exactly what I say when I say it, because we've had things thrown at us and other stuff. We knew what was out there, and they're like, oh, we just want to go. Well, I lost sight of him. Heather's sitting in the truck in the same spot on the right side, looking at the same trees. Keely's on the left side, standing there with me. I lose sight of him, and Heather's going, Roger, Roger, Roger. And Keely's like, oh my God, there's an orange glowing orb. And I'm like, and then somebody said something about a red one, and Heather's got one over on her side. I never saw any of them, but everybody's trying to get my attention at the same time. And I'm like, where is Cielo at? And I'm looking around, and he is on the ground meditating. And I snatch him up, like, stop. I don't know what you're doing, but quit. This is not the place. Because the first thing, when she said orange, I'm thinking orange eye shine from what, and it was, she said, it's right there, and I've got so many people yelling at me, I can't focus on one.
Yeah.
And so I made them get in the truck. I said, get out, don't do that, don't ever do that again. I don't know what you were doing.
With all your sightings, Roger, whether it was similar or one was different from the other, how did you feel? How did Heather, Heather's here, she can speak for herself, but did you have like that feeling of being watched, or just fascination where you're just so focused? Did you feel anything weird I ask one because most paranormal encounters, there's something that you feel, right? But also, the big theory in quartz is frequency, so it could have been vibrating in you too. So,
Right.
what did you feel, if anything at all?
No, usually when something's going on, I do have some kind of reaction. All 3 times with Peyton, with my buddies in Chapel Hill, and then with Heather, I didn't feel anything at all, which is kind of odd. Yeah, we were just discussing it. And we had the windows down and we're discussing it. So it's like it wasn't paying attention to us. I'm like, what is that? I mean, then we're looking. Where's the moon? Oh, there's no moon. Are there any lights anywhere? No, there's no light. You're debunking. You're just going right down the list. And finally, we get to a point where like, I have no idea what that is. And I asked her. I said, how far up in the tree you think that is? I don't know. She's not good at that. And I'm like, well, how high does a basketball go? You know about how they are? She said, yeah, that's about the height. So that's 10 foot. So that gave us a reference of how high it was. So the next day when I come back, me being 6 foot, I knew where it was at and about where it would be at, and there was nothing there. With Peyton, we're sitting in the truck, we got the keys ready to go, and it's a good 80 yards away in the woods. So it was moving some, but it wasn't pulsating. I guess the distance made it, we felt safer, but I was more worried about being somebody being there than but we went back again. We go back and say, I need to check that area out, because if I remember correctly, I don't think you can walk through there. And we were going through, and he's like, if somebody came in here without a flashlight, they're absolutely nuts. I'm like, yeah. And there's no reason.
With Amanda's cryptid, and I was saying, like, you can take any cryptid and go down literally every single rabbit hole. Spirit lights, is it a paranormal entity? Is it ghostly? Is it shape shifting? Is it like what do you call it? An astral projection of somebody trying to find a host? I mean, it could be.
Yep.
It could be anything. And you had that was 3 separate sightings, or did I miss just the 2?
No,
the orange one.
We have 4, and but I didn't see I was the only one in the group that didn't see one that time. It was like everybody was panicking and screaming for me. Well, under their breath, like, Roger, Daddy. I'm like, I didn't know which way to go, because and then
what would be the mileage, the circumference of the several sightings, if you could ballpark it?
So 3 were in the 3 sightings I'm talking about, Heather, Peyton, and then the group of us was in the same field.
Oh,
very same location in the edges of the woods. And we've had we've caught Bigfoot howls on tape. We've had more than one time. The one time the thing stepped out and screamed at us right behind us, like right on top of us. We've had a lot of things happen. Yeah, but that comment's right. Orbs are seen in graveyards where tombstones are made of quartz. Many train tracks have gravel quartz. That's right. So you look at what the similarities are. A lot of people talk about quartz storing energy. Well,
100%. Stone tape theory,
100%,
all the way.
Yes.
That's what we use in the computers, right? For memory. Is that right? Or some computers, they use quartz for, but anyway.
Quartz, gold, and many other precious minerals of all kinds of different kinds.
So
basically ruins.
What if slight pressures make a difference too? Because they know that they can take and put a quartz in a vise and then get electricity from it, or energy. So what if the atmospheric conditions with a little bit of pressure a certain way could cause some of this? I don't know.
If you're talking railroad tracks too, a train could have gone by an hour ago, but maybe it took that long for the vibrations of the track to, reach a certain point.
Yes.
Can I say just so quickly, because I don't want to hijack your story, Roger, but I'll paraphrase very quickly. The very first ghost story I remember hearing around a campfire, was from my dad, and it was basically haunted train tracks, ghost lights, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And the big scary part of the story was, as people would go to, it was always a bunch of meddling kids, right? Scooby-Doo,
Yeah.
like, we're gonna go find these lights.
Those
So,
meddling kids.
those meddling kids. So the scary part of the story was, whoever would be foolish to go look for these lights would usually meet their end in, they would see it, but then they would meet their end in some horrible way, either getting hit by a train, or being taken away by a ghost train, or
Right.
tripping and breaking their neck on the track, or whatever,
Right.
whatever it was. But here's
Mhm.
the twist of the story. They then are the ones carrying the lantern.
Yeah.
And so the other ghosts could leave, so they could pass
Right.
on. And it's
Kinda
like, all
like
right,
a werewolf curse, but with a ghost
Right.
thing.
And
yeah.
Interesting.
So they
and
could pass the lantern on to the next person. So they would try to lure the kids into their untimely death, just so they could,
in a
move
weird way,
on.
I'm not carrying the lantern, but I'm carrying the story. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And with knowing what I know from seeing the Chapel Hill light up close and personal, when I see people fake videos, or I see one point I was going to make, they said sometimes it's don't carry a camera because it's too dim. That's the other crossing way over, that you see. That's what most people think the light is. But this light, if I'd had one of these cameras or on the phone, and I would have been ready, I believe it would have shown up. There's no way it couldn't have. It was too big. I mean, I'm talking beach ball size at least.
Wow.
So I'm not. This other thing was probably, the size of a regular book, but like two stacked together.
Mhm.
And it was rounded on the ends, and it was undulating, and it was the weirdest thing. And
And they could have been two different things themselves. Like, you don't
Yeah,
know.
been two completely different entities.
Entities.
Whatever you want to insert something there, it could have been two completely different things.
Right. And
And
so
to your
here's my theory, and I'm not a scientist. I've experienced things, and it makes me
Mhm.
think, right? When people talk about woo and stuff like that, but then again, you talk to people and they'll talk about the energy, right? It's all about energy. We had on Robin Haynes a couple years ago, and I wasn't ready for a conversation. I thanked her the other day. I sent her a message. Thank you, Robin, for talking to me. I wasn't ready for it. The more I learned, the more I understand what you were saying.
Mhm.
And it all comes back to energy. So what if this area, because of the rocks, because of the minerals, because of the energy, you're going to see woo stuff, but the Bigfoot are maybe attracted to this certain area for some reason. Who knows? I don't know, but it
it's
seems
literally
like
their vibe.
maybe,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So there's some natural stuff around us, just like what Miss Joni's garden here. If you told somebody that and they didn't know about it, that would sound woo.
Mhm.
Hey, I can get on here and I can call River in Australia and talk to him. If you'd have told somebody that 100 years ago, that would have been you'd been burned at the stake.
We're
So,
literally 3 different time
Literally
zones
burned at the
right
stake. Yeah.
yeah, frequencies. I feel like the more I learn, the more the frequencies, the light, the bandwidths, the sound, all of this is something being hidden from us, and if it's being hidden from you, it's for a reason.
Well, I think Amanda said at the beginning of the episode, or I guess we were all kind of concurring, it very much is a supernatural world. And
Yes.
supernatural does not remove the natural. This is
Right.
all just stuff that we either don't have an understanding of thoroughly,
Mhm.
or we have different interpretations. We're still figuring it out. So I do
Yeah.
want to say too, and this goes for everybody here, whether it's Bigfoot, water monsters, ghost lights, and everything else in between, Wampus cat, anybody who intakes this type of content on a daily basis. You know, it's getting harder now with AI, but like
Mhm.
the number one comment I always see in a lot of videos is, well, why didn't they get out and go, follow it? Because it's dangerous. You get out and go follow it.
It's
So,
always they want somebody else to do it.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
they
then,
want
and then
somebody else to go
upload
do
it.
it.
Yeah.
And then upload it on YouTube for my viewing pleasure. Like
Yeah. It's
so
like
you
PJ just commented, you know, she lives amongst the Bigfoots. You have to look both ways before you come out the front door. I mean,
Mhm.
you're worried about going to the grocery store and getting back in before dark, you know, and
Yeah,
so
and Justin in the comment next, I can't see y'all. I'm looking at a different screen, but I just looked up a famous quote by Nikola Tesla says, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And he says everything in life
100%
is vibrations.
everything.
the more I learn, the
Yeah,
more
the
I
more we
believe.
learn.
Because look, when you have scientists like that, or whatever you want to call them, and some of the crazy things that Einstein said, and they have proven them to be true after his death.
Mhm. Yep.
Let's say you've got 10 freaking amazing things right, but there's 80 over here that nobody's proven yet. Well, some of that should scare you. If he was right about these, and there were some of the more outlandish claims, then you're probably going to say, hey, you know, at least 30 or 40 of these are true too. So people, they like to shut down or put their head in the sand or whatever. And that used to be me. I'll be honest with you. I've had the ghost things going on, and I prayed to God, take it away from me. And
Yeah.
but now I'm feeling like it might have been something more to it, like I was supposed to know more than I know now, you know?
Wendell's comment, the more I learn, the less I know, and isn't that the truth? I mean,
Yeah.
Amanda
Right.
and I have been talking about all this stuff for 10 plus years, and there's no end to it. I mean, how many times have we like just privately, just Bigfoot, Loch Ness, ghosts, whatever, we fall in
Yeah.
these conversations, and we've yet to run out of talking about these things, because the more you learn, the less you know.
One interesting theory with the quartz, somebody mentioned one of the battlefields, but I believe it was what's the one up north? I can't think of, but anyway, they do the reenactments and stuff. But they've been seeing these ghosts in period dress, look like a regiment of men marching at night and stuff, and they just dissipate. Well, you know, we have your computers that has memory. You have your watches, your smartphones has memory using the quartz and all that. And some people have brought up the theory that maybe the quartz holds those memories, and then under certain conditions replays them.
Mhm.
And that's what we're
100%.
seeing. So
And also, not to get, and I feel bad, I'm watching the time, and I don't know how much the
Gettysburg.
time
Right.
we have,
Thank you,
Yeah.
but
buddy.
I don't want to get weird, and you guys can scare me off if it's too much. But also, us as human beings and the elements that we're made out of, you can break it down to, not to sound Full Metal Alchemist, but carbon, so many percent. She's laughing because she knows where I was going with it.
We were watching it while I was eating dinner before this. That's why I was laughing.
And
We ourselves are made out of the very basic elements of this earth, and you think from a religious standpoint. I mean, I'm a loud, proud Christian, not so much the religion aspect, but a follower of Christ.
right.
And you think about things like the preciousness of blood is often associated to Christ, the preciousness of his blood that cleanses us. But our own blood is very special. And I think it's something that sets us apart. I think that's why a lot of myths and legends of the really bad, scary monsters are usually involved with some kind of blood taking from us, because there's some specialness to that. You
Yep.
take places like the Civil War, and just Gettysburg, throwing it out there because it's the
Right.
most well known, right?
Yeah.
The blood soaked earth,
Yes.
and all of that energy and all of that essence soaking into the earth and all of those elements. Again, I'm a huge fan of the stone tape theory. But yeah, sorry,
No, you're right. So check this out.
No, you're 100% right. Yeah.
Have y'all ever been to the Shallow battlefield in Tennessee? It's close to Mississippi, but it's Shallow, Tennessee. Huge battle.
Add it to the list, Amanda.
Yeah, add it to the list. Yeah,
it's a huge
I
battlefield.
haven't been to it, but I have been to Chickamauga here in Georgia.
So
Chickamauga and Kennesaw battlefields, which are both pretty horrific.
when you go to places like that, I can go on a sunny day and feel totally different than going on a foggy day or whatever, or depending on the condition.
100%.
And there's one spot, y'all. If y'all go to Shallow, do this for me. There's one spot that I'm drawn to, and every time I go there, I have to stop and just look at this little bitty body of water. It's a pond. It's not much bigger than this little room here. Maybe it's big as the 2 rooms put together. It's called the Blood Pond. And the story is where there was Northerners, Southerners, horses, and all were wounded and trying to drink out of this pond. It was turned to blood because it had so much blood, and they were having to move people and horses that had died out of the way to get water, and they were all just dying all around this pond. But it was the only water source right there in this area. It was such a bloody battle. So that ground, Ashley, that you're talking about, may still have that energy or that whatever because of all of that blood. And every time I go there, I that's one spot I will get out and stop for a little while because you can almost feel it. So, but yeah, y'all, it's been fun. I appreciate y'all coming on. I know y'all know we could talk forever, but
oh yeah,
we need to leave some meat on the bone for other shows.
And like I said, we only picked 3 different little subjects, and look how many rabbit holes we hit.
Exactly.
In just one show.
Everybody's taking notes.
I know.
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
For once, I'm the only one without my notebook. I feel
you're good.
I was gonna say that's rare for you.
It is. I was ill prepared.
And y'all see why we get along so well, because we're all like-minded. And they're not afraid to correct me, and I feel like I can say, I don't know if that's right or not. We're not gonna get mad at each other because I don't know everything, and I'll go ahead and tell you right off the bat, and I'm here to learn. So, Jeff, you're late. But
you're late to the party, buddy.
If there's any questions, y'all go ahead and ask, and if there's anything y'all want to add before we wrap it up. And another thing, y'all, I know I've been bugging y'all with the songs and stuff, but there's a reason I'm doing it, and spending time with my kids, and Peyton's writing stuff, and we're putting things together. Keelig's practicing editing, so maybe in the future we can put videos together and all that. So, and I'm going to end the show when we do with the Squatchin Holler song that Peyton wrote. So for the outro.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm hear it all the way through.
But yeah, y'all, any final thoughts or any questions?
I still think we need to have we need to throw it out to the general chat, or the live chat rather, and just be like, maybe not the next episode, but maybe in a few weeks, like submit questions. We need to do a live chat question extravaganza.
I think that would be awesome.
Yeah. And I'll probably be like, I don't know. let me Google that. No, but anything like anything like from experiences, especially from what we've been through, or questions. So sometimes we miss questions. I'm open to any kind of question. Any story you've ever heard me tell, I'm not going to shy away from questions.
Same.
Hey, Wyatt. Yeah, why did they blow up the Georgia Guidestones?
That is a very good question.
I'm more curious of who blew them up
right.
as opposed to who. I mean, I do want to know both, but like one says a lot.
Yep. I know. It's all about hiding the knowledge.
They never re-erected them, did they? They're still just
no, they haven't re-erected them yet.
Nope. That's a hard word to say. But so y'all, all right then. I'm gonna for you, the people that haven't heard, we've been putting together. Now I'm up front, we're writing the lyrics, but the AI is putting the voice and the music to it. We can pick what style of music and what voice and all that. So we're not actually producing these things, but we're copy and pasting lyrics. And then I'm not that good at it. So Peyton will look at one of mine and totally change it. So it'll be different. But hold on just a second. Let me check there. All right. So y'all, I'm going to play this for the outro. And any of y'all ladies that are tired, if you want to go ahead, we don't have to.
You got a friend.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. I love cats.
She's my Wampus cat.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see how this works.
Well, sunrise paints the ridge a hazy gold. Down in Squatchin Holler, stories told of nights the banjo's crying in the breeze, and something big lurking amongst the trees. My grandpa swore he saw it clear as day, 10 feet tall with eyes of burning gray. But folks around here, they just laugh and say he's been sipping moonshine, lost his way. Squatchin Holler, where shadows play, secrets whispered, then they fade away. In the mist that hangs above the creek, something calls out in the lonely peak. I'll walk these woods where legends sleep, feel the silence, secrets buried deep. The whippoorwills sing their mournful tune beneath the silver glow of the harvest moon. Maybe it's the whiskey talking low, but I swear I heard a rustling in the snow, a heavy footstep, then a guttural groan, echoing through the holler all alone. Squatchin Holler, where shadows play, secrets whispered, then they fade away. In the mist that hangs above the creek, something calls out in the lonely peak. They say it's nothing but an old wives' tale, a mountain lion scream, a bobcat's wail. But I've seen the tracks myself, big and wide, where something walked they couldn't hide. Squatchin Holler, where shadows play, secrets whispered, then they fade away. In the mist that hangs above the creek, something calls out in the lonely peak. In Squatchin Holler, secrets never die.